Welcome to Auto Shop Showcase with Gary Gunn. Today's guest is Dennis Eidson.
Welcome, folks. This is Gary Gunn. I have a very special guest today. His name is Dennis, and Dennis will introduce himself here in just a few minutes because he's a lot better at telling you about himself than I am telling you about him, okay? So he's going to share a couple of things with us today. We got three topics we're going to talk about: the people, the processes, and the profits. So Dennis, I want you to share your wisdom, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then go right into the people side, if you would. So
Sure.
Mike is yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Gary. Good talking to you today. I've got a shop here, a six-space shop in Roswell, Georgia. We've been open for about coming up on 13 years now. Very successful, growing, lots of bumps and bruises along the way, but I'm real happy with where we are. I spent a lot of time with Gary in the years past and learned a lot from him. I've learned a lot from other shop owners and other folks, and that's where I'm at with my business.
Okay, good. So what about the GMs? You can talk to people, listen to this about people. What have you learned along the road?
Wow. Really, really good people really help. If you can get,
Yeah.
mediocre people, not so much. I've got, I've always had good people. I've got, some employees that have been with me from the day that we opened 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and they're fantastic. I've had technicians that were good, and I've had service advisors and managers that were good and solid and trustworthy. But when you get a superstar and just a fantastic, I use the term unicorn. You find someone who's great with people, great with processes, great with customers, can manage the margins and profit and loss and all that, can deal with difficult customers. I guess my biggest pearl of wisdom is never stop trying to find that great person. I'm a huge baseball fan. I think I can see behind me my Atlanta Braves World Championship clock. I'm a huge baseball fan, and I guarantee you the Braves, who have the best record in baseball, are probably going to try to get more better people here coming up at the trade deadline. And if you own a shop or any business, and I talk to folks that own all kinds of different businesses, every one of them has to, hire the best people. And related to that, I'll say this. I think I pay my people more than they make elsewhere. I mean, it's worth it to me to pay them a little bit extra to create a stability and a steadiness and a trust factor. So get great people and pay them more than someone else wants to pay them. Those are two big gems that I have as it relates to people.
Okay. So, you've probably had a lot of people come through there that weren't unicorns. Correct. So how many people did you have to sift through to find this unicorn, a technician as well as a GM up front? I mean, if you got both of those people, that's a great running back, a great pitcher, and a great catcher, right? So those are lethal.
Yeah. So on the GM side, I didn't go through a lot. I've been in business 13 years. I had a manager that retired two and a half years ago, and he was with me for 10 plus years. I've got a service advisor who's now really a shop manager. He's been with me for 12 and a half years. I haven't had a whole lot of turnover, but I probably accepted a little mediocrity from him.
Okay.
I knew there was things he was great at, there was things he wasn't good at, but I sort of allowed that and accepted that. On the technician side, I've had a lot of mediocre techs. I don't know. We've got 5 techs right now. I've had as many as 6. I've had 3 or 4 really, really good ones over the years. I've had, 20 or 25 mediocre ones, 6 or 8 really, really bad ones. So you get rid of the really bad ones quick, and you keep looking for the unicorn. You keep looking for the great. And I don't know that I did that very well. I think I settled for mediocre maybe, and but once you get that unicorn, once you get that unbelievably good technician who's, fast, efficient, talented, smart, analytical, diagnostic excellence, all those things that you're looking for, it's a different world. It changes your shop. It changes everything in the shop. So I would encourage any shop owners, never stop looking for that unicorn and be willing to pay it.
And what I've seen over the years, Dennis, that one key player in the back can bring everybody's game up.
Completely. Yeah.
Because he affects the whole shop because of his work ethics. They just look up to him like he's the godfather or something. You know what I mean? It's amazing.
My unicorn is a pretty young guy. He's like early 30s.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. I had a longtime technician in my office yesterday. And one of the things that's happened with this new technician, my unicorn, is my shop is spotless. You could eat off the floor. It's the most organized it's ever been. Every machine is in its exact place. Every jack stand, every floor jack, every piece of equipment. The inventory is perfectly organized. I think he dusted the shelves where we keep our oil filters. But I had a longtime tech who was in my office yesterday, and he goes, "I've been saying for years, we need to keep the shop cleaner." And I go, saying it is one thing, doing it is another.
Yeah.
By the way, doing it when you turn 75 hours this week is that's the mind blowing part, is that so what's happened is, and this is only, I'm 2 months into this with this new guy, it is absolutely rubbed off on everyone else. It's osmosis. I mean, they see, like now their toolboxes are perfectly cleaned. I saw a guy pulling his drawers that were shoved full of wrenches and organizing them, putting them in order, so he's not digging through the desk every time he needs a 10-millimeter wrench.
Yeah.
So it's you get that phenomenal person, they will improve the whole shop.
Yeah. And the other P we want to talk about was processes.
Sure.
And I guess the McDonald's theory, hire the least amount of talent and have the processes and they'll just do it. Well, in our business, that may not be true, Dennis. So what would you like to share with the folks?
And you and I've talked about this before. I have heard some folks say that, if you have great processes, the people don't matter. And maybe I've tried that. I've tried to subscribe to that over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I still think, I guess after many years in this business, I'm convinced that people matter most. Processes matter. Processes matter right up there. I mean, they're neck and neck for the most important things you got to do. It can be chaotic in a shop. The phone is ringing, you got unhappy customers, you got vendors delivering parts. In my case, I've got a very small shop and a very small parking lot. It can be chaotic. And so, to help manage that chaos, putting processes in place on how we bring customers in, how we do digital inspections on all the cars, following that process helps cut back on some of that chaos. Okay. We order our oil every Monday morning. We put in our order for oil. We don't do it on Tuesday. We don't do it on Wednesday. We do it on Monday.
Okay.
And so how we check the customer out. We have a rewards program, going over that invoice with the customer, talking to them about the rewards program, redeeming any rewards points that they have, asking them, is everything okay? Do you have any questions? Reminding them of the warranty that we have.
Mm-hmm.
It may not seem like it's a process, but it is. It's real important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's important that you do those little things the same every time. And we get away from that. I mean, sometimes we get away. Here's a simple one. We put a little thank you card in every customer's car, and it's signed with a Sharpie by the technician. And then we put a bag of goldfish crackers that cost me 40 cents, right? And I got a review on Google the other day, and the lady posted a picture of the thank you note from the technician and the goldfish crackers, and she said, "Who does that? What auto repair shop has a handwritten thank you note and a goldfish crackers?" And the answer is, we used to do that better than we've been doing it. And then you get away from that process.
Yeah.
You get it, and then your goldfish crackers are stale. So my whole point is, and when we're I'm very proud of my reviews online and what Google and Yelp people are saying about us. But there's little things: the goldfish crackers, the thank you note, the sticker, the digital. I mean, there's 100 things that we do as part of our process that customers have commented on over the years. And that's why I'm at 4.8 stars. And it's driving me crazy because I've been at 4.8 stars on Google with about 650 reviews for years.
Wow.
My goal is, how do I get to 4.9? And the math is I got to get 57 straight 5-star reviews to get there. But those reviews all talk about something minor and inconsequential, you might think, but all of those minor inconsequential things add up to great processes that have helped us grow this business to where it's at. So it doesn't happen randomly. It happens by design. You gotta focus on those processes.
Yeah. And I always felt that, you could improve your plight by hiring decent help with great processes. But here's what I found: are they willing to follow them? And do they follow them only when Dennis is watching, or do they follow them all the time?
Excellent point.
So the best guys, those unicorns, will follow the processes because they know it pays dividends.
Well,
It saves them time. It keeps confusion down. The chaos kind of goes away because they have a step-by-step process to follow, don't they?
Yeah. We just had a conversation 5 minutes before I got on this call where a manager was putting the customer into the system and didn't follow the process. So the customer will make an appointment and they'll type in on their online appointment request, here's what I need to do. Our software requires, that'll show up in the software, but it doesn't show up in the work order that the technician's looking at. So the process is, you got to make sure that whatever they typed in their appointment request, you copy that over to the work order. And so, things are never going to be perfect, but it was a good example of, and this is a guy who's a great service manager, goes, oh, I didn't know that. And so he has intermittently been doing it right. But what's more likely is he's communicating verbally to the technician what needs to be done, rather than adding it to the work order the way that he should. And so, shame on us a little bit for not catching that. But nothing's perfect. But having good processes, certainly. I'll go back to that first comment I made, is that it helps minimize and cut back on the chaos if you're doing things consistently from one car and one customer to another.
Yeah, and really that's what processes are all about. And it's not to stranglehold everybody; it's to ramp up production in less time and remove a lot of the errors.
Right.
Yeah, and if they do that, then we got good processes, right?
Exactly.
And it sounds like you do, because you are growing and you're getting those 4.8 reviews, and then you want 4.9. But I think I would take a 4.8. That's solid. That's so solid.
Yeah,
in the automotive business, it's extreme.
If it was all 5.0, it would look fake.
Yeah, it would. It would be very fake. Absolutely. Yeah. And you was talking about goldfish. I knew one guy used to put chocolates in the car. Guess what they do when they get hot? They melt.
Yeah.
So he had bad reviews because of the melted chocolate.
I haven't had any bad reviews yet on the stale goldfish because we stopped putting them in cars, but hopefully those things, they have a real long shelf life and there won't be any stale goldfish that we put out there.
Well, that is true. That is true. So the last part of it, and not last, because all these pieces kind of go together, because it's like a human body: the blood, the muscles, the nerves make the body run. All these three things make the shop run, and that's profits. And if we don't have a profit, a good friend of mine says, gross without net is gross.
True.
Okay. So now what about the profit side? Any particular words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
Well, obviously it's something that you got to be paying attention to, and you got to be focused on. Um, for me, back in my corporate America days, there was a senior manager that I worked with for. He had what he called the service profit chain, and he said customer satisfaction leads to employee satisfaction, leads to shareholder value, and I'm the shareholder. So in my world, and I learned this, and there's books written on this topic. It's not like my former VP made up this thing, but you focus on your customers, make your customers happy. That will make your employees happy, and that will eventually lead to profits for me. So that's one way I've approached our business. And guess what? Those first few years, I wasn't making a whole lot of money. And by many standards, I'm probably still not, but I know I'm doing a whole lot better than I was 12 years ago when we started this.
But, that's good.
Yeah. So profits are important. Paying attention to, what your margins are. I mean, I could tell you on every invoice and on every day and on every week, and a lot of it from what you taught me years ago, Gary. But I know what my parts margin is today, and I know what my labor margin is today, and I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of margin for the better people that I have. I think I said earlier, I back to my people thing. I probably pay some of my people more than they're used to making elsewhere, but that's okay. The other thing I would say is it's amazing to me. I've raised lots of prices. Over the years, I've raised lots and lots of prices. My costs are going up. My high paid technicians are a lot more expensive than the mediocre ones I had prior. I'm not afraid to pass that on to the customer. I'm not afraid to raise my prices. I think a lot of shops and a lot of businesses, set a price and think that we're just going to leave it right there. And, you can't really raise it. I mean, we deliver you come in here with a problem in your vehicle, we figure out what it is, and we fix it, and here's the price to fix it. I don't say here's the margin to fix it. Here's what I'm marking up those parts. Here's what I'm paying that technician. I'm fortunate because I'm in a market where we got a very loyal customer base. It's a relatively affluent customer base. These guys aren't fixing their own cars, and they may go to Rock Auto and find out that I'm charging them a lot more for brake pads than they could get at Rock Auto. But I'm fortunate because it's the service, it's the people, it's the experience, all that 99% of my customers don't have a problem with. And so, and I say that because, I mean, if my gross profit last year was 59% and now it's fallen to 58% because I got a more expensive technician, I'm still taking more dollars to the bank. The percentages may be a little bit lower, but don't be afraid to adjust your prices based on your higher costs. And all of us in every aspect of our life right now are probably experiencing higher costs. And I've talked to shop owners who I'm very good friends with, and they're charging the same thing for a battery today as they were 6 years ago. If you're not paying attention.
Yes, you are. Absolutely. Yeah. So sometimes profits, so let's say, and in our industry, we hear this, that they don't value what they do enough to make a profit. Does that make sense?
Oh, I mean,
they see themselves as unworthy. And I don't know where that comes from. I think it's the station in life that a lot of technicians and shop owners are in. I just see it.
So I tell a story. A friend of mine bought a shop, bought an existing shop 6 or 7 years ago, and I was helping him with this, and we were evaluating the financials. And the shop had a decent volume. They had a pretty good sized shop, but they made no money at all. And we're going through the financials, and I'm just going to make up a number, but he had $500,000 in part sales. And then I'm
Okay.
looking at his P&L. He had $500,000 in cost of goods sold. 500 in part sales, 500 in cost of goods sold. And I said to him, I said, I don't understand. He goes, well, I didn't feel like it was fair to charge the customer more for parts than they could get them for themselves. So you sold your business, basically. You ended up selling the building. You didn't sell the business because the business.
No, there was no business to sell.
There's no value there.
No.
And,
No.
I mean, and I've heard many stories similar to that. And I think that, everybody thinks, well, hell, they're charging me $290 to do brakes. I can go buy the brake pads for $30 myself, jack it up in the backyard and do it myself.
Yeah.
And
you could.
I think there's too many shop owners out there, and I think this is changing. But I think 30 years ago, 25 years ago, there was a lot of shop owners that were technicians and said, I'm smarter than the owner of the shop. I can do this on my own, and they go started a shop.
Yeah.
But weren't paying attention to the profits. Didn't feel comfortable charging a customer, $160 an hour. Which that may depend upon your market and the cost of your technicians. 160 may not be enough. You need.
That's right. Yeah, so true. Well, Dennis, thanks for sharing your wisdom with us on the 3 Ps. And the last thing I want you to think about is that it could be any topic in the automotive industry, what you've experienced. Do you want to share something that probably unscripted here that you would like to share? Something that is just a great takeaway for them.
I think a lot of things I've probably touched on. We'll touch on this last point. I just 10 minutes ago, before I got on the call with you, I was giving a longtime customer a ride home, and she was, she's known me for years, and she was just asking back. She said, I'm still stunned that you're not a technician. You don't know anything about car repair. I said, well, I did. I know a lot now. I did when I started business. I didn't, but to me, this is a great business to succeed in, because there's so many people who are doing it wrong. And
wow,
if you are focused on taking care of that customer and focused on your people, the profits will come and the businesses will be successful, and you'll be, 13 years old, still experiencing double-digit growth and 4.9 stars. So if we focus on the customer, focus on your people, the profits will come. So I don't know if that's anything different than I've told you, but I just think there's too many folks out there in this industry still today that aren't focused on that customer, and they make life they make it harder for me, but they also make it harder for themselves by not being focused on the right thing. So
what they focus on, Dennis, is fixing the car, not the customer. Okay. Yeah. And that's what I see. If they can make that shift to fix the customer, the car is secondary.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. They're good at fixing cars.
Yes.
They're not good at managing customer relationships and marketing and HR and operations and all the other things that go with it. So I agree.
Well, I hope you have another 13 years and you just keep on growing. You get to that 4.9.
I want to retire before I'm Gary Gunn's age. So I gotta do that, sooner.
You just have to reinvent yourself to do something else. See.
Well, we just went, Gary, and you'll get kicked. We for 13 years, we were open 6 days a week. A month and a half ago, we went to a 5-day work week.
Oh, wow.
It hasn't slowed us down whatsoever. Our business is still good. But I find myself, and I wasn't working 6 days a week, but I do find myself bored. I do find myself, it's like when, it used to be on Saturday, I could wonder what was going on in the shop. Well, now I don't have to wonder because it's closed.
That's cute. That's great. All right. So I'm going to put a close to this. And Dennis, thanks again for your time and sharing your wisdom here. And so I'm going to So we're going to talk a little bit. Hey, folks, I had to come back on air. Dennis and I were having a conversation, and I was asking him about some things he used to use, and now he's using something else and spreadsheets. And Dennis is a miracle worker with numbers. So Dennis, kind of walk us through, if you would, what you do and how you track your business.
So over the years, working with people like Gary and working with other shop owners and just kind of being a numbers oriented guy, I've always looked at numbers. I'm just like every other shop owner out there. I'm looking at what was my cart count, what was my average repair order, what was my gross profit margin, how many hours a ticket are we turning, all those things. So I had 100 metrics in my head that I looked at, and I finally said, you know what, let me create a scorecard, a report that pulls data. Most of the data comes out of my shop management software. Other data comes, on things that we do on a daily basis. And I plug all that data into my scorecard, and I'm going to show it to you.
Okay.
And
that's good. Excellent.
These are weeks down the side.
Okay.
And different metrics that I want to look at. And it takes me 5 minutes every Monday morning to run a report and to populate this scorecard. And I can look at all those metrics, all those things that shop owners have always looked at, but I look at it every single week and I see the trend. And it's going to point out where you have a GP problem, a parts margin problem, a labor margin problem, a labor technician productivity problem. And so, I built this spreadsheet, have been using it pretty much just this year. And it brings into one place 40 or 50 things that are important. And it helps you diagnose and red flag potential issues that, if I do this on Monday morning, on Monday afternoon, I'm meeting with my managers, or Tuesday morning, and we're going through it together. And we're saying, hey, good job to, manager number one on your parts margin last week. Why is manager number two, why did your parts margin tank last week? Could be he did 3 engine jobs last week. There's always an explanation. But and I don't use this as a carrot or a stick. I use it as let's all be on the same page with what's going on in the business. And I ask every manager, what are a couple, 3 things that you want to be focused on this week to improve that number that we just looked at. So that's kind of how I use this. Data everywhere, but sometimes we don't do anything with it, and we're certainly guilty of that too. It's not like we fix every problem every week, every time we see it, but it helps us focus on what can we do to improve the numbers.
Yeah. Well, Dennis, thanks for the bonus time. So folks, that was a bonus that Dennis wanted to lay out there. He was talking about it, and I said, we need to capture this. So back again. I do not know about you, but I guarantee you, Dennis Eidson is one heck of an operator of his business. I want to thank you Dennis, thank you for sharing what you did. And remember, folks, this is Showcase by Gary Gunn. That was a wild, perfectly set up interview, unscripted. So what you got is the core information from our friend in the automotive business for 13 years, Dennis Eidson. Thank you so much. See you at the next interview. Bye-bye.